Welcome to Spectral Shadows. This is the place where the stories don't just haunt your mind, they follow you into the dark. Before the whispers begin, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it? Midnight? Or closer to the hour when shadows move on their own? If you're brave enough to continue, prove it. Like this video, subscribe to Spectral Shadows and leave a comment with your time and location, so we'll know exactly where to find you. Now, let's open the door to tonight's nightmare. Story number 1. I had just started a new job at a hospital a few states over from where I had lived. I had been a paramedic for the better part of 2 decades and wanted something different and a little slower than working on the ambulance. While looking for other career opportunities, I found a job listing for a medic position working in this hospital's emergency department. To be honest, the job seemed a little too good to be true. The pay was more than what I was getting on the ambulance, and the benefits were amazing. During my interview, the emergency department manager told me that they wanted medics in the lobby for our rapid triage skills. Our time on the truck had given us something of a sixth sense when it comes to weeding out bullshit from true medical emergencies. I had also learned that while something like this has been done at other hospitals, this position was brand new to Valley Medical Center. I met my other medics on our first day of orientation. I found out that Cliff and Rhonda would take the day shifts, and Danny and I would be on nights. That didn't bother me in the slightest. We get to see the more interesting things at night. Our first night would be one that we never forget. They had us stationed out in the parking lot for COVID screening. They had a makeshift structure under the breezeway that led into the emergency department waiting room. We jokingly called it the COVID cave. Any potential patient that walked up was first screened by us, a rapid triage was done, and then sent to the throughput nurse for room assignment. Easy. Valley Medical Center was a smaller hospital, level 4 trauma center, with a level 1 being the best of the best. Just because it is a level 4 doesn't mean we don't have our fair share of critical patients. The closest level 1 was over 2 hours away by air. For all intents and purposes, we were all they had, and had to think outside the box when it came to stabilizing a critical patient. That night did start off too bad, and most of the emergency department's patients were discharged before 2200. When I looked at the board to see how many patients we had, there were only 3 listed. "Hey, Sam," Danny called. She was standing just outside of the COVID cave's entrance, looking up into the sky. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" I walked over to her and looked up. The twilight sky had a sickening green tint. "I've only seen the sky turn that color just before a tornado," I offered, "but the radar is clear." "It just feels wrong," she said with a shiver. "I know. What are y'all looking at?" A voice from behind us asked. We turned to see one of our security officers, Alex, walking up to us. He had only been with Valley Medical Center for a few weeks, but was a nice enough guy to get along with. "Not sure," Danny said. We made our way back to the fold-out table they had set up for us in the cave. It held our basic supplies: laptop, cooler with water, gloves, thermometers, and such. The next few hours dragged by. We cleaned our area, restocked our supplies, and Alex regaled us with a story of his most recent epic Nerf sword battle that took place at his favorite geek tavern before COVID shut it all down. Let me stop here and just say that Alex, nor Danny, were anyone to mess with. Alex had spent 6 years in the United States Marine Corps. He never really talked about what he did, mainly just gave us the whole "I was a mechanic" spiel. Danny spent time in the Army as a 68 Whiskey and earned her combat medical badge. I had never seen time in the military, much less combat. but 16 years working on an ambulance on the west side of Montgomery taught you a thing or two. It was during Alex's tale of the Nerf sword battle that things started to go sideways. He was cut off mid-sentence by a scream coming from the parking lot. We didn't jump into action like you see on TV, but we did get up to see where the scream came from. Running blindly into a situation can get, and has gotten, people killed. 204 to base, Alex called into his radio. We heard it. 204. There was a slight pause. 202, 206 need you to respond to the emergency department entrance with 204. Female subject screaming. Unknown source. How did dispatch hear that? I asked. Yeah, aren't they in the basement? Danny offered. They are, Alex said. Everything okay out there? Our charge nurse, Drew, called over the radio that the staff used. We had to use a separate system to allow for service inside the building. Yeah, did you hear that too? Danny responded. Yeah, it echoed all over the emergency department. Drew replied. We waited in the cave until Alex's backup came out. As they approached the entrance of the cave, we heard one of them comment on how foggy it had gotten. Danny and I looked at each other and made our way to the entrance as well. Sure enough, in that short amount of time, a thick fog had rolled in. We couldn't see anything past a few feet from the lights of the entrance. As Alex and the other security officers started to approach the fog, one of them hesitated. He looked genuinely afraid. Are you good, Cook? Alex asked. Yeah. Cook stammered. As Alex turned back to the fog, he jumped. The shadow of a woman's figure was standing just inside the fog. Son of a... Alex cut himself off before he got himself in trouble with human resources. Can you help me? The woman asked. Her voice was that of a stereotypical grandma. Yes, ma'am. Danny recovered first of us. If you'll just step over here to the entrance, we'll screen you and get you to a room. There was a small laugh. I wasn't sure I had actually heard it, but the look on everyone else's face said that they did. I noticed that Cook was not taking any of this well. He was getting increasingly antsy by the second. Giggling, the woman spoke. I don't think I can do that. I looked at Danny, and she mouthed, Psych patient? Do we need to get you a wheelchair? I asked. Oh no, dear boy. I'm more than capable of walking. The sweet grandma tone was completely gone. It was replaced with a tone of anticipation. It's the light. It just hurts my eyes so bad. I'm sorry the light hurts your eyes, but you'll have to be in the light for a little while so we can check you out. After that, we can put you in a room and turn the lights down to a comfortable level for you. Danny was trying her best, but her offer was just met with silence. What if I get you a wheelchair and you just close your eyes, or cover them until we get you to a room? I asked. We've dealt with enough psych patients to learn when to pick your battles. If she wanted to be wheeled to a room while her eyes were closed, I was more than willing to do it. She remained silent for a few heartbeats and then replied, That would work, but you'd have to come to me. No, Cook whispered in a panic. She needs to come out of the fog. I'm not fighting with her. It's not a problem, I responded. Come on, Johnson. The other security guard followed me into the fog. There was a definite temperature change as soon as we stepped into the fog. It dropped almost 10 degrees. She must have been further in that I thought. I could see Johnson standing next to me and the wheelchair, but nothing else. Stop, Alex yelled. Come back, both of you. Again, some things you just don't question. I walked the few steps back to the entrance only to realize that Johnson hadn't followed me. What's up? I asked. She moved as soon as you crossed in. We can't see her. I found... Johnson was cut off. Oh shit, get her off. Alex and Cook ran to Johnson's voice. We could hear a struggle and Johnson was still screaming. "My fucking arm! It's gone, man! My arm!" 3 gunshots rang out. Danny and I jumped. We stepped back into our cave and subconsciously grabbed our jump bag, similar to the one we carry on the ambulance. We waited for what seemed an eternity. Alex and Cook emerged from the fog and were dragging Johnson back to us. Johnson was missing his arm from the elbow down. Our training kicked in like second nature. Danny applied the combat application tourniquet to his arm, and I called Drew over the radio. "We need a stretcher out here now. Traumatic amputation to the left arm." No sooner had I said that than the entrance doors opened for our trauma team. No words were really spoken. Johnson was loaded up and taken to one of our trauma bays. "I told you all not to go," Cook said. "What the hell was that?" Alex asked. "She ate his arm, man." Cook continued without answering Alex. "She bit his arm?" I asked. "No, man." Her jaw unhinged, and she ate his arm. Cook holstered his gun and put his hands on his knees. "One fucking bite, and she ate his arm." His voice was a bit calmer, but still scared. "Check my body cam, bro. It's all there." "It was tasty, too," the voice called from the fog. Not my normal choice, but it was delicious. Both Alex and Cook drew their guns and pointed them towards the fog. We couldn't tell where the voice was coming from. It felt like it was coming from everywhere. "Did you miss?" I asked Alex. "No, we hit that thing at least 3 times. Another laugh echoed. "Tonight has only started. Tonight, we feast like royalty." With that, multiple figures appeared in the fog. Too many to count. Like royalty. They all spoke in unison. "Lock it down," a voice called from behind us. We turned to see the shift commander, Hooks, standing behind us. "Sir?" Alex asked. "Get everyone inside. Lock it down. Now." Danny and I made our way to the emergency department lobby. Most of the other entrances were already locked down due to the time of night. Security only had to worry about 2. The emergency department lobby and the ambulance bay entrance. "You think we'll be good here?" I asked. "Yeah," Cook replied. "The sliding glass doors are locked and are made of bullet-resistant glass. Had those put in last year after a nut job tried firing a gun into the lobby." He pointed at the thick wooden door that led into the main emergency department. "This is the only way into the emergency department from here. There's a deadbolt system in place just in case of active shooters, along with your regular keycard access." "Speaking of," Hook started, "let's go ahead and initiate active shooter lockdown." Cook nodded, radioed to the other security officers, and engaged the deadbolt on the emergency department door. I should note at this point that the only windows in the lobby were from the entrance. The lobby used to be the main emergency department and was converted to the lobby after the new emergency department was built. I looked over to Hooks, and he was talking to someone on the phone. My only guess was that he called Drew to fill him in on what was going on. Mid-conversation, Hooks looked at his phone and put it in his pocket. "Well, cell phones are down." Hooks commented more to himself. "Mine too," Danny stated. The resounding comments of "fuck" sounded off throughout the lobby as the others tried their respective phones. "Landlines and internet connections are down too." Cook called from behind the registration desk. "What now?" I asked. "Well," Alex started, "they seem to not like the lights, so unless they find the generators, we should be good." I checked my watch. 0200. Only a few more hours until sunrise. I'm not much of a horror fan, but I do remember enough that most of these things don't hang around in the daylight. I could only hope that this rang true for the things standing around outside. The chatter in the lobby died down as a noise started outside. All of us strained to hear. It was chanting. I couldn't make out what they were saying. Alex and I made our way to the front doors and saw that the fog was inching its way towards the door. I wish that was the worst of it. We could hear screaming coming from the other side of the emergency department door. "What the hell?" I asked. "No one in particular. It's probably Johnson," Hook said, rubbing his temples. "And we're just going to stand here and do nothing?" Alex just about yelled. "That's exactly what we're going to do." He sighed. "There is something you need to know. All of you need to know." The screaming grew. "Hooks." Drew came over the radio. "Johnson breached the ambulance bay doors." Drew sounded oddly calm. "Keep them safe. Hopefully we can end this, Tonek." He was cut off by static. "What about the rest of the staff?" I spoke up. "Who's going to keep them safe?" "They've already died, at least once." Hooks responded. "What?" Danny asked, unable to hide the surprise from her voice. "Everyone in that emergency department has already died at least once." Hooks sighed. "You ever wondered why it was so slow tonight?" He asked us. "The ones that don't remember what happened get a longing to come back here. The ones that do remember just stay away, for the most part." We sat there in silence for a few minutes. I could tell that Hooks was letting us soak in the information. If someone dies on a death night, the next morning they're returned with a number on their forearm. The number slowly fades over the next few hours and only returns on a death night. Hooks rolled up his sleeve to show a number 6 on his forearm. The higher the number, the more times you've died. Cook rolled up his sleeve to show a number 4. "We normally see the numbers right after sundown," Hook said. "We have a death night protocol that we initiate. It normally entails going on full diversion, so ambulances are discouraged from coming here." "What about the walk-ups?" Alex asked. "They normally don't make it to the door. Most of the locals can feel when a death night approaches and just stay at home." Cook spoke up. "And y'all couldn't warn the new hires?" I retorted. "I'm sure that would go over great in new hire orientation. Hey guys, and welcome to the team. By the way, our hospital is cursed," Hook said. Hooks's radio came to life. "Johnson has broken through the ambulance bay doors." It was Drew, and his voice was eerily calm. "Keep those 3 safe. See you after sunrise." The transmission was cut off. "Has anyone survived a death night?" I asked. "Not yet." Cook replied. "That's why we're trying to keep you 3 alive. Maybe that will change something." Hooks offered. The screaming coming from the back slowly turned into a dull roar. Danny, Alex, and I just sat in the middle of the lobby floor, not really talking. Hooks took a post by the wooden door, and Cook paced in front of the sliding doors. Hooks looked as if he wanted to say something, but wasn't sure how to break the news. His expression turned to one of resolve, and he spoke up. "No easy way to say this. In order to bring you back after sunrise, you can't die by your own hand. It has to be by them." I felt the color drain from my face. I wasn't going to ask how he knew, and I'm sure I didn't want to know. "Anything else we need to know?" I asked. "Depending on how tonight ends, we'll talk more after sunrise." Hooks responded. The roar slowly died down over the course of an hour. We strained to hear what was going on. We could hear shuffling and other movement coming from either door. Hooks jumped from his post, and all our heads popped up to see what was going on. We could hear a scratching coming from the wooden door. "We can smell the fresh meat." The female's voice from earlier called, "We want their meat." She giggled. "Not going to happen." Hooks called back, "You have tried numerous times before, old one, and you have failed each time." She groaned. "I still remember the first time I tasted your flesh. Oh, how you screamed." "That's funny. because I remember putting a 9mm in your eye," Hook said with a grin on his face. The woman screamed in rage. It echoed off the walls and in our heads. When she stopped, it left a ringing in my ears. I looked back up to see Hooks laughing manically. "So you do remember that, huh?" "We still have time, old one," she retorted. With that, we were left in silence. 03:17, my watch said. At this point, I felt like it was just taunting me. It had been almost 40 minutes in complete silence. "Why don't you just leave the town?" Alex broke the silence. "We've tried," Cook said. "The second we cross the town limits, the numbers show back up on our forearms. Each day we're away, the numbers count down. I don't think anyone had stayed away long enough to see what happens when it reaches 0. Which is why they required us to move here to accept the job," Alex said with his face in his hands. "Yeah," Hook said. The time started to pass mind-numbingly slow. I glanced down at my watch. 05:46. Not much longer. I sighed with hope. A bang on the wooden door brought me back to what we were dealing with. It was the sound of a body slamming against the door. "Last-ditch effort," Hooks taunted. "I will have them," the woman cried. Something hard hit the door this time. The random banging turned into a rhythmic pounding. Splinters started forming on our side of the door. Hooks just watched the door with a wild smile on his face. I thought this madness had gotten to him, but he was just waiting for the right moment. As soon as a breach in the door was big enough, Hooks drew his weapon, stuck the muzzle in the hole, and pulled the trigger multiple times. The sound of those things screaming on the other side was bittersweet. It showed that they could be hurt, but it also enraged them, and they started attacking the door with a ferocity that I had never thought possible. Cook ushered us behind the registration desk and took up a position next to Hooks. Hooks reloaded his weapon, and Cook drew his. "Please stay behind the desk," Hooks called over his shoulder. "No heroics." "I," the woman screamed. "Will." The door cracked. "Have." Splinters flew across the lobby. "Them." The door hit the floor. "Not today, bitch," Hooks roared back as gunfire erupted. I'm not sure how long it lasted. There was a mixture of grunts, screams, and fighting. It wasn't until Danny had gotten my attention that I noticed everything had stopped. We eased up from behind the desk to see that the Hooks and Cook were sprawled on the floor. No sign of the monsters or that woman. We ran over to the two men that fought to the death for us. I won't go into the state of their bodies. Some things are better left unsaid. Hooks turned his eyes up to us and wheezed. "We did it." He exhaled for the last time. I saw the number on his arm disappear. "I don't want to see the rest," Danny said with a choked voice. Alex and I nodded in agreement. "I wonder what happens." I was cut off by a torrent of wind and a bright light. The wind whipped around us, almost taking us off our feet. The light grew so bright that we shielded our eyes. Just as sudden as it started, it stopped. All of us lowered our arms and cautiously looked around. Hooks and Cook were standing there, with a glazed look on their faces. Slowly, recognition washed over their faces. Hook slowly shook his head and ran his hands through his hair. He surveyed his tattered uniform and then noticed that we were looking at him. "Did you?" "No numbers," Alex said. Hooks smiled. He and Cook found a set of chairs and sat down. "What happens now?" Danny asked. "A long talk over a good breakfast." He turned his head to the door just as Drew crossed the threshold into the lobby. He had already changed into a set of spare surgical scrubs and handed both Hooks and Cook a pair. Looking at us, he asked, "I'm hoping that y'all don't need these." "We don't," Danny said. "There is a diner just down the road. I'm buying," Drew said. "Wait till y'all hear about the diabetic werewolf," Cook said, laughing. "I'm going to end this post here. I'm exhausted. I'll post more when something else interesting happens." Story number 2. I need to tell this from the start for it to make any sense. My mother, a kind, elderly woman named Suzanne, has battled breast cancer for most of her life. Somehow it keeps returning. She has beaten it 5 times, but no matter what she does, it always comes back. Doctors all across the country have been puzzled. My mom lives alone with just her and her 3 cats. My dad died many years back from leukemia. Since then, her house has mostly sat empty and dark. It's almost impossible for me to step into the house. I can't even imagine how it feels for her. But she doesn't have too much of a choice. Her only other option is a retirement home, and she's always been a free spirit. It was 2 days ago when I received a call from her. I had been out of our small town for months on business. I had just finished work for the day when my phone rang. I pulled it out, surprised to see my mom calling me. Normally she sends emails. She only calls for important things. I knew deep down, but I didn't want to believe. "Hey, Mom," I started, my voice beginning to break. "Hi, sweetie. I took the blood tests. It's back." She began to cry, loud sobs that I could hear through the phone. "I don't know if I can beat it. Will you come with me to the doctor's?" I immediately said yes. In almost 2 hours, I was on a plane headed back to our town. I landed at around 7:30 and got into town at 9. It was 9:08 when I pulled into the garage. I stepped into the house, greeted immediately by a wave of nostalgia and happy memories. It was almost overpowering, but I knew I needed to push forward. I emerged from the foyer into a cozy living room. There were 2 small recliners, a couch, and a table. My mother laid down on the couch, fast asleep. I decided to join her. I grabbed a pillow and a spare blanket and laid down on the floor beside her. It took me a while to fall asleep. It was only when I heard her snores that I truly began to feel tired. The very next day, we went to the hospital. Normally we go to the town's hospital. Today, I knew something was different. Deep down in my gut, something told me that I needed to go to the county hospital, so I trusted my gut and changed the course. My mom complained for a little, then went with it and slept in the back seat of the car. When we arrived at the hospital, a towering pillar of glass, I picked my mom up and carried her inside. A woman with rimmed glasses sat at the reception desk. She peered up at us as I explained the situation. She told us to take a seat, and a doctor would be right with us. Sure enough, a doctor soon was. His badge read, Dr. Purge. He smiled, and then herded us to a small clinic room. I don't remember all the details. Doctors came and went, giving blood tests, and at one point took Suzanne and left me alone to give her a round of chemotherapy. It was then that I fell asleep. The events of the day and the day before had just taken its toll, and I leaned back in my chair, drifting off. The first thing I noticed when I awoke was flashing lights. Red, off, red, off. The pattern switched every few seconds. I rubbed my eyes, making sure I was seeing correctly. The next thing I registered was a loud, booming klaxon that made my ears ring. Following that was a public address announcement. I heard what seemed to be a woman say, "Please remain in your rooms. This is not a drill. Please remain in your rooms." Fear gripped my heart, but it quickly was replaced by fear for my mom. What would happen to her? She was still somewhere else. I steadied myself. Assuming it was a gunman, I would probably be safe, right? I decided to take a risk. I stood up from my chair, tiptoed to the door, and cracked it just slightly. The hallway beyond was clean and pristine. I decided to go for it. The hallway was silent. The only thing I could hear was the klaxon every few minutes. My footsteps echoed off of the walls, stretching to infinity. I had no idea where I was going. I assumed that I needed to find a map, to then find stairs, and to then find my mom and leave. Again, I always trust a gut feeling. I turned a corner at the end of hall. Again, nothing, except for a few red drops halfway down. I approached cautiously. As it got closer, I knew what it was. It was blood. But then again, that wasn't out of place for a hospital, was it? I kept going. I made a right. This time, there were more drops of blood. However, there was a map on the wall. I reached it, memorizing the path I needed to take. Left, right, left, left. Easy, right. Just then I heard a noise. I looked around, trying to figure out where it came from, but it seemed to be coming from all directions. It sounded like footsteps. Suddenly, the footsteps got louder. I wheeled around to see Dr. Purge running dead at me. He screeched to a halt, grabbing my shoulders and shaking them frantically. "Get back to your room. It's not safe," he yelled. "I can handle a gunman," I declared. "No, you don't understand. This isn't a game, and it's not a gunman. Whatever it is, it got your mom. You need to run." He started to cry. I backed up, slowly. His tears began to fall. Red tears, straight from his eyes. Red, blooded, teardrops. He began walking faster towards me. I turned around and sprinted. Behind me, I heard fast, frantic footsteps and crazed panting. I dashed a left, then barely hit a right. The plan had changed. If my mom truly had died, I needed to get out. Eventually, the footsteps died behind me. I was close to the elevator, and Dr. Purge wasn't. After a few turns, they appeared. I pressed the call button. Nothing happened. I banged my fist against the wall. Of course, it wouldn't work. Just perfect. I would have to take the stairs. Luckily, they were right there. I immediately began to rush down the cobblestone stairs, not stopping. Floor 5, floor 4, floor 3. Just as I passed floor 3, I heard a chorus of laughter. It seemed like multiple voices coming from above and below. Whatever it was approaching fast. I ducked out into floor 3, then silently shut the door and turned around. Behind me was a line of dead patients. Their corpses rotted in a huge open room with benches and vending machines. They were laid side by side, making what looked like a checkerboard. Broken bones and random limbs were put on top, arranged to make letters. And in 1 second, I realized what was spelled. "We see you." I wheeled around, determined to get back to the stairs. In the window of the stairwell, I saw Dr. Purge. His face was locked in a manic grin, his hair sticking out everywhere. His face was smeared with blood. I screamed, and he began to open the door. I turned around and ran like my life depended on it. Ahead was a door reading, "Security." I slammed into limbs, but I didn't care. I rushed into the small security booth and locked the door. Almost instantly, I heard banging on the door and laughter. I looked around. There was a small table with a computer and a walkie-talkie. I went to the walkie-talkie first. There was static, then hissing, and then something spoke. It wasn't from the hospital. I recognized the voice as Dr. Greer of the town hospital. What was he doing on this channel? "My name is Dr. Greer," he said shakily. "Something is in our hospital. It's picking off patients one by one. I don't know what to." His voice was replaced by another, a woman's. "Help! Something broke into our hospital. We need immediate assistance." Again, her voice was replaced by an old man's. "Please get us back up. There are people dying in our hospital." Finally, one last voice came on the radio. I gasped, recognizing it as my mother's. "Please, hear my message. My son, we see you in the security room. For your mother's sake, open the door, open the door, open the door now, open the door, open the door, open the door." She began repeating the one phrase as the banging grew louder. Ignoring it, I turned to the computer. Luckily, it had some service. I went to the one place I know of. I don't know if this will even go through, if this will even be posted, but I need help, and I need it right now. I'm going to die here. Something is in this hospital. It appears to be affecting other hospitals in the area as well. This could be big if this spreads. But for now, get me help. You've reached the end. But the shadows haven't left you. If this story unsettled you, prove you survived. Like this video, subscribe to Spectral Shadows, and leave a comment with the part that haunted you most. The darkness is always waiting, and so are we. Until next time, don't turn off the lights.